myself. I'm Leanne Powell. I'm a membership and groups manager. And my role in the organisation is to support our volunteers with membership, vetting, screening, supporting that membership process, also supporting new groups with opening, and obviously offering training and support to groups and volunteers as and when they need it. So that's my role here today. We're going to be focusing on PVG and vetting. I will move on to the first slide. Okay, so what we'll cover today is who needs a PVG, what the online PVG. Oh, we've got someone arriving. Hi, we've just started the session, so welcome. So what we'll be covering in today's session today is who needs a PVG. We're going to be also looking at the online PVG process. We're going to be looking at suitability references. I'm going to talk a little bit about applying for membership and how that is managed. And we'll also have a quick look at safeguarding, because obviously PVG and screening also supports our safeguarding of the children and young people. And then we can have a question session at the end, and I can also signpost you to some relevant information that will support you all as membership secretaries at Woodcraft. So the first one we're going to look at is who needs a PVG. So PVGs are required by our volunteers who are regular attendees of group night sessions or activities. And every group night and activity should have a minimum of 2 leaders with a PVG present at every session. And as I mentioned before, volunteers who regularly help out in a group or attend an overnight stay are required to have a PVG and suitability references. We also require this of our group and district office holders. So that can be your lead safeguarding person, membership secretary, group coordinator, district coordinator. All those roles that have a level of responsibility are required to have a PVG and references. Also, in Scotland, DFs or venturers between the ages of 14 and 15 who are taking on a role of responsibility at group night or camp are required to have a PVG as well. And when we say role of responsibility, this could be a clan leader, someone offering facilitation, someone providing site services, those types of roles they'd be required to have a screening for. With venturers, we do them very rarely for that age group, but we have done in the past when people are doing things like Duke of Edinburgh's and stuff like that, and they are taking on some level of responsibility. We have had to do checks for them. So do bear that in mind if that comes up in one of your groups. And so those are the people that need a PVG. Okay, the PVG scheme. So PVG stands for the Protecting of Vulnerable Groups, and it's a membership scheme, and it's for those who work with for people who do regulated work with children and vulnerable adults. At Woodcraft Folk, we only check against regulated work with children. We don't do any work with vulnerable adults, so we don't do that check for our volunteers. We use a registered body called Volunteers Scotland, and they manage the PVG process for us. And they're also one of our counter signatories on applications. So you may have heard of them before. You may have gone to their website at some point trying to apply for a PVG, but that's the regulated body that we use. And then your volunteers and young people aged 15 and upwards can be a member of the PVG scheme, and disclosures can be applied to carry out regulated work. And as I said, it's a membership scheme. So a person applies to join PVG, and then an organisation can then get disclosures, or can apply for a disclosure on a volunteer and get a criminal record check for them. Applicants can either apply to join the scheme, or an existing member, we can apply for an update check, which is a similar process. but it's obviously checking someone who's already a member of the scheme. So that's a kind of an overview of how that all works. We're then going to look at the online PVG process at Bookwa folks. So it's kind of broken down into two halves. So first of all, we're going to look at the role of the membership secretary in the process, and then we're going to look at the role of the applicant, because it's kind of a two-step process for PVG. So the first thing a membership secretary would do would be to identify a volunteer who is required to have a PVG. They would then go onto our website and they can download what we call an online application request form. And it's a simple Excel spreadsheet that you can download and add the details to. So you can do the request completely electronically. The form is going to ask you details like the applicant's name, date of birth, their email address, which is really important, their home address, and where they're going to be doing their volunteering. So it will say, are they going to be doing it at home or are they going to be doing it outside? And then you can tick what's relevant. Obviously, we don't do any work at someone's home. And then you're also on that form going to identify what application that person is applying for. So they've broken it down into these three application types. So the first one you have is scheme record to join, SRJ. And this is an applicant who is joining the scheme for the very first time. And that's the form that they're going to be issued when they're sent their application. The next application type is scheme record update. And this is when the applicant is already a member of the scheme, and they are currently doing the same regulated work that you're going to be checking on. So obviously, if they're working with children already, and that's what their PVG is for, then you would select SRU because they're going to be doing regulated work with children with us as well. And then the other one is the existing member scheme record. And this is when the applicant is already a member of the scheme, but they are not doing regulated work with children. They are doing regulated work with a vulnerable adult. So the PVG or Disclosure Scotland are aware that you need to be checked against a different type of regulated work than what you originally had joined PVG for. So those are three different types of applications, and you need to identify which one you're applying for the individual on your application request form. So it's literally on the form, you would put in either SRJ or SRU next to the person's name, so that when we process the form, the individual is sent the correct application form to fill in. Also, at this point, you need to witness the identity documents of each of the applicants that you're requesting a form for. And you can, so this can be a driving license, it can be proof of address, a bank statement, it can be a mortgage statement, it can be a council tax bill, and obviously you can use a passport, so and so forth. So that's the ID that you'd be checking for the applicant. We do have PVG ID checking guidance on our website. If you were unsure, if someone was like, I'm not sure if I've got all the types of ID that you're suggesting, then you can go and look at that guidance and it will let you know what else they can use as an alternative. Once you have filled in the application request form for the individual, or you can do more than one person, so you can fill in this online application request form for, say, up to 10 applicants. You can then send the form, the electronic form, to the membership team, and what we'll do here, we'll receive that electronic form from you by email, and we are signatories for Volunteer Scotland. So we would sign off on that all the ID checks were done as suggested in the form, and then we get that ready for processing with Volunteer Scotland. So once it's been checked by us and we've made sure everything is present and correct, we'll then go on to Volunteer Scotland website and put all that information in to the system, and it will then generate a link of an application form that's going to be sent to the applicant. And that is the kind of the process for membership secretaries to take when when they have individuals that require a PVG. So those are the steps that you would need to do. So then once that link has been generated, we can then have a look at what the role of the applicant is. So once the request for an application has been submitted, the applicant will receive the online application form link by email from Disclosure Scotland. So they need to be looking out for that email. It's it's a good idea to let your volunteers know what to expect. And they then would have 14 days to complete their online application form. After which, if they don't fill it in after the 14 days, the link will expire and they won't be able to fill it in. Once they fill in that form, they press submit, that all goes off to Disclosure Scotland for processing. And then the applicant is sent a copy of their certificate, as well as myself at Woodcraft Folk. And then we would then check the certificate when it comes in, make sure there's nothing on there that needs to be risk assessed. So obviously if there is something that comes up on someone's criminal record check that triggers us to do a risk assessment, we would then involve the membership secretary and make you aware of what was happening. And there is a process for that. We have procedures that I can send you all if you wish, that kind of takes you through the risk assessment process and which crimes or cautions or warnings would trigger us to want to do a risk assessment. Most of them are based around violent crimes, really. And then obviously missed applications, what happens then if they miss the application after 14 days, then we would have to resubmit their application request again. So obviously if we don't receive certificates back, we are tracking them. We would then trigger them to send a new link out to that individual if they were still volunteering with us. So we would do a few emails to the applicant, to yourself, to let you know what was happening if we noticed on the tracker that we haven't had a certificate back for an individual that is volunteering for us. So that's the role of the applicant. So it's pretty simple process, but obviously the 14 days to complete the application is like the crucial bit of the process. So it's really important that we're on our volunteers to get that form filled in, check their junk mail if they haven't received that email, etc., to make sure that they're getting filled in on time and processed promptly. So that's basically the online PVG process. The next thing we were going to look at was, I've got a little page, PVG FAQs. So as I mentioned before, PVG is a membership scheme. And what that means is that because as an organisation, we are listed on an individual's membership, it means that we don't have to do renewals of criminal record checks like we have to do with Disclosure and Barring Service, which covers England and Wales. We don't have to do regular renewals every 3 years. If something does come up on someone's membership, we as an organisation that's listed on their record, we will be contacted by Disclosure Scotland to let us know there's something that we need to be made aware of. So that's what's really good about this scheme, is that we don't have to do regular renewals. Lead times on PVGs, they are slightly a bit longer than Disclosure and Barring. We find that they can take about 6 to 8 weeks to come back to us. So if there is a camp or an activity that you have volunteers and parents who want to come along and don't have their checks done, that they get their applications done quite promptly. Otherwise, it can mean they miss out on, an overnight stay or an activity that they wanted to attend, and obviously support your event ratios, that kind of thing. So as I mentioned before, if a criminal conviction is listed on someone's disclosure, we would then trigger us to do a risk assessment. We'd contact both the applicant and yourselves, and we would take you through that process. Once we've done the risk assessment, what comes out of it, we would then disclose to you both, and we would take it from there. In most situations, the risk assessment is done, and maybe it means that the individual might have to be supervised. They can't perhaps maybe drive a vehicle for the organisation, that kind of thing. But this happens, very rarely, but it's something to bear in mind. And then PVG applications are free of charge for volunteers, so there is no charge to do the application itself. And then, as I mentioned, the membership team are tracking applications, and we are updating Group, which is our membership database or management system. So you can find out details of a volunteer's membership and their PVG details and screening decisions on Group. If you don't have access, do let me know. And I can organise that for you. There is a tutorial on our website which takes you through how you can use Group to manage membership and PVG. And as I said before, we track applications, so we can easily flag up when one hasn't come back to us after a period of time, and we can either resubmit. We'll check with the volunteer if they're still active, etc., and make sure that form is completed. So suitability references. So references play a big part in our vetting processes. A reference will describe a volunteer's suitability to work with children and young people, whereas obviously your criminal record check only talks about crimes that a person has been convicted of, or a caution, a warning, etc. So it's really good to have the references as supporting that process as well. So 2 references must be sought for all new volunteers. We have an online form that referees can fill in really easily. There's a few questions, standard questions about their relationships, with children. Do they think that they're competent to volunteer, etc. And that information is returned back to the membership team, and we just update our records to say that we received them and they were good. If a reference came back that there were questions about a person's suitability, then we would discuss that with the applicant and yourselves if that was received. But so far that hasn't happened yet. So yes, we've got our online form. The references can be sought from employers, doctors, teachers, colleagues, friends, volunteer placements, doctors, as I said that already, and at least one external referee, so a non-profit member. So you can have your group leader, if you're friends with them, or you've known them for a long time, to do a reference on your behalf, but you could only have one Woodcraft person do that for you. And then obviously, as membership secretaries, we rely on you to help us with membership and screening. So if you have access to Group and you can see that someone's references haven't been done, please do help us in chasing those up as well. The link to the online form is on our website. And as part of the new membership process, if you've got volunteers that are going through it, as they complete an online form, they pay their membership fee, they are also sent an email with instructions about how to complete their disclosures and provide references. So they are aware of that as part of the process. But obviously some things get missed or slipped, and yes, any help with chasing that will be amazing. So that's suitability references. I just want to mention about the membership process. As I said before, we have recently upgraded our membership process, and now we have an online form that can be found on our website, really easy to fill in, and then it's a stage process. So once you fill in the application form, it will then take you on to the payment page, so you can a volunteer can either pay by direct debit or one-off card payment, etc. And then they receive a welcome email and instructions about how to complete screening, etc. So I would say that the system, the user journey for our new volunteers is a lot more easier to use. It's more accessible. So if you do have new volunteers joining your groups, you can signpost them to the membership page on the website and know that it's a lot easier for them. So hopefully you won't have many queries about that. And then what happens then is that once we have someone apply, we'll then make sure the details are right on Group, and then that new member, will appear in your district dashboard people section on Group. So as someone joins, they will appear in your district, in your people section, and then you'll be able to see all their kind of contact information. And as and when their screening checks are done, that information will be available for you to view on their record. So hopefully it will be a lot more of an easier process for you guys checking on group for your members and knowing that they are able to apply a lot more easier than it has been in the past. So this is suitability references. So we're going to move on to safeguarding. What is safeguarding? So obviously as membership secretaries, your role is to help in the screening process. And obviously that supports safeguarding, but safeguarding is the protection of children from maltreatment, preventing impairment of a child's health or development, ensuring that children are growing up in circumstances consistent with the provision of safe and effective care, taking action to enable all children to have the best outcomes, everything we do to keep children physically and emotionally safe. And I think membership secretaries, obviously we have a responsibility to make sure all of those things are carried out. But obviously the bottom bullet point, everything we do to keep children physically and emotionally safe. Obviously the screening process is put in place for that reason, and that's why the role of the membership secretary is so important, to make sure the volunteers that we have working with our children and young people are safe, have been checked, and we know that they are suitable for the roles that they're carrying out in the organisation. So that's safeguarding in a quick nutshell. Obviously, the one thing, as all adults, as all helpers, supporters of Wilquar folk, we all have a responsibility to raise concerns if there's something that we see that is harmful to a child or young person. If you have any concerns about a child, a young person, or about adult suitability to work with children, always share. Worries about individual children and possible abuse within their home based on your observations, inappropriate behaviour of an adult, volunteer, or child, volunteers not abiding by Wilquar folk policies and procedures. If a child or young person is in immediate danger, obviously contact the police. For all other concerns, contact your local lead safeguarding person, or you can contact the lead safeguarding person for the organisation, which is Owen Cedric Gel, along with a team of staff and trustees who support safeguarding. So, as I said, it's your role in terms of screening is really important. Obviously, volunteers who are not screened are not abiding by Wilquar folk policies and procedures. And obviously, if we're not screening people, we're not checking their suitability, obviously, inappropriate behaviour of an adult or child can come into question. So it's really important to make sure that we're all kind of vigilant and take responsibility for raising concerns as and when we see them. And then finally, I just want to let you know about the support that's available on our website. We have an amazing membership FAQs page, which answers a lot of questions that come up regarding membership, screening, references, etc. So it's always a good place to go if you have a question. If your question is not answered there, then obviously you can contact the membership team, which is the email address is there, membership@woodcraft, or you can give us a call. Myself and our administrator Rosie, and we also have a volunteer that supports membership as well in the office, Veronica, are on hand to answer any questions that you might have, and are able to signpost you to all the information and guidance that we have out there. There we have a volunteer screening page. There's actually guidance about PVG ID check-in, the PVG online process, and I'll send you all these links tomorrow, so that you can kind of like bookmark them so you have them to hand. We have a membership secretary guidance pack, which is also available to download on our website. So that's PVG and screening from Scottish membership secretaries.